The sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows upon the towering corporate building where Tom had recently started working as a security guard. The edifice was an architectural marvel, its majestic presence overpowering everything in its vicinity. Tom always felt a shiver run down his spine as he walked into its grand entrance, not only because of the building's imposing stature, but also because of the mysterious tales that surrounded it. His role was a simple one: patrol its sprawling floors, ensure that the security alarms were functioning, and most importantly, ensure no trespassers or squatters took refuge in its abandoned sections. The first 2 floors were occupied by bustling businesses, but anything beyond that was desolate. They were remnants of dreams unfulfilled, spaces where time seemed to stand still. Tom was no stranger to strange noises, and like any other seasoned guard, he had his fair share of spook stories. But this building was different. Every night, as he wandered its silent corridors, he would hear whispered conversations, soft giggles, and sometimes, even the faint melody of a lullaby. It was as if the building was alive, echoing the memories of its former inhabitants. Curiosity, combined with a hint of fear, drove Tom to research its history. He delved deep into the public archives, uncovering news articles that painted a chilling picture. A construction worker, George, desperate to save money for a new house, had briefly housed his wife and 2 children on the 10th floor. However, a tragic accident involving a misplaced gas cylinder led to a fire, resulting in the family's untimely death. Each piece of information felt like a punch to Tom's gut. Suddenly, the playful giggles he heard took a more sinister tone. The whispers became more poignant, and he could almost hear the desperation in them. Determined to unravel the truth, Tom decided to venture deeper into the building one night. The 10th floor, with its charred remnants, was a grim testimony to the past. Amongst the debris, Tom discovered an old, burnt doll and a toy car, heartbreaking remnants of a lost children. But the true revelation was on the 11th floor. There, amidst the dust and cobwebs, lay an old diary. As Tom leafed through its pages, he could feel the weight of George's anguish. The diary was a chronicle of the worker's dreams for a better future for his family, ending with the heart-wrenching line, "Tomorrow, we leave this place for our new home." The atmosphere grew heavier as Tom ascended to the 12th floor. The air grew colder, the silence more profound. This floor bore no signs of the tragedy but exuded an energy that made Tom's hair stand on end. After what seemed like hours, Tom finally left the building, the sun's first rays breaking the horizon. He felt a connection to the place, an understanding of its grief. The building wasn't haunted, it was mourning. Days turned into weeks, and Tom's nightly rounds became a ritual. He'd speak softly to George and his family, trying to provide them some comfort, letting them know they weren't forgotten. One evening, Tom found a small, makeshift memorial outside the building's entrance, a bouquet of flowers and a note that read, "In memory of George and his family." It was unsigned. Perhaps Tom wasn't the only one who felt the building's sorrow. Or maybe, just maybe, George and his family weren't alone in their quest for peace. By connecting with the building's tragic past, Tom found a purpose beyond his job description, to be a beacon of hope in a place shadowed by despair. The echoes of the abandoned floors were no longer just sounds of the past, but reminders of dreams, love, and the undying human spirit. Eli had been a security guard at the aging Oakwood Industrial Complex for 3 years, and the eeriness of his nightly rounds had become routine. However, there was always one place that sent a shiver down his spine: Gate B. An old, rusted gate on the eastern side of the complex, it was rarely used and mostly forgotten. But rumors had it that it was a place of dark history. A decaying plaque nearby told of a worker named Samuel who, years ago, had met an untimely death near Gate B. The circumstances of his death were shrouded in mystery. While the official records spoke of an accident, whispered tales claimed it was murder. Samuel's colleagues would often say that he was too curious for his own good and had seen things he shouldn't have. Eli often heard unsettling noises near the gate, metallic clangs, muffled voices, and on particularly cold nights, a sorrowful wail. He had always attributed these sounds to the wind or some distant machinery. But lately, the disturbances were becoming more pronounced. One frigid winter evening, as the fog rolled in thickly, Eli approached Gate B for his routine check. The beam from his flashlight barely penetrated the swirling mists. As he neared, the usual background noises of the complex seemed to fade away, replaced by an eerie silence. interrupted only by his own rapid heartbeat. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept past him, carrying with it a putrid scent. Startled, Eli panned his flashlight around and froze. There, silhouetted against the fog, was a tall figure dressed in old workman's attire. The figure's face was obscured by shadow, but its eyes gleamed malevolently. Paralyzed by fear, Eli watched as the figure slowly moved toward him. Every step it took was accompanied by the unmistakable sound of chains dragging on the ground. Eli's breath caught in his throat. Could this be Samuel, still bound by the shackles of his tragic end? Summoning all his courage, Eli managed to stammer, "Who are you?" The figure paused momentarily and then, in a voice that sounded like it emerged from the depths of a grave, replied, "Justice." Without warning, the figure lunged at Eli, hands outstretched. Reacting on instinct, Eli darted away, his boots pounding the ground as he raced to put as much distance between himself and the spectral entity. The fog thickened, disorienting him, but he kept running, propelled by sheer terror. Minutes felt like hours, but finally, Eli emerged from the dense fog and found himself back at the security booth. Panting heavily, he locked himself inside, shivering uncontrollably. All night, he remained vigilant, half expecting the apparition to appear. But dawn broke without further incident. By the next evening, the memories of the encounter had dulled, and Eli tried to convince himself that it was a hallucination caused by the fog and fatigue. But as he neared Gate B, he found something that chilled him to the core. At the foot of the gate lay a tarnished, old worker's badge with the name Samuel engraved on it. Next to it, written in the dust, were two words, "Seek Truth." Eli knew he couldn't ignore this. Over the next few weeks, he delved into the archives, piecing together the fragments of Samuel's life and tragic demise. The deeper he went, the more he became convinced that Samuel's death wasn't accidental. It seemed the spirit of Samuel sought vindication, and Eli felt compelled to help. Months turned into a year, and finally, Eli unearthed evidence pointing to foul play. The culprits, long gone from the complex, were brought to justice. It seemed Samuel's restless spirit had found an ally in Eli. From that day on, the disturbances at Gate B ceased. Eli's nightly rounds were no longer punctuated by eerie sounds or spectral sightings. However, he always treated Gate B with reverence, leaving a lit lantern there every night. In remembrance of Samuel, and as a beacon for all lost souls, hoping to find their way home. Late-night shifts at the Museum of History were never Carl's favorite. But the pay was good, and being a security guard allowed him to support his family. The vast corridors and ancient artifacts, bathed in the soft glow of dim lights, took on a different hue at night. Carl often felt he wasn't alone, even if the CCTV camera showed otherwise. One evening, as he began his rounds, Carl was startled by an unexpected flicker of movement on one of the screens displaying the Egyptian gallery. The room, usually cold and quiet, seemed to be playing tricks on the camera, as shadowy figures danced across the walls. He rationalized that it was probably just a glitch. On entering the gallery, he immediately felt a drop in temperature. The air was thick, making it hard to breathe. His flashlight beam scanned the room, revealing the sarcophagus of Ankh-es-Amon, a priestess whose resting place had been a recent museum acquisition. There were whispers among the staff about the curse associated with her tomb. Carl, a staunch skeptic, dismissed them as mere tales to boost visitor numbers. He approached the sarcophagus, drawn by an inexplicable compulsion. To his horror, he noticed that the heavy stone lid had shifted slightly. Suddenly, the room echoed with an otherworldly hum. The hieroglyphics on the walls seemed to come alive, their tales of death, resurrection, and vengeance playing out before him. Heart pounding, he heard a voice, soft yet chilling, "You have disturbed my peace, and now you shall pay." In the dim light, he saw her. A shadowy figure, draped in tattered royal robes, with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce his very soul. The figure of Ankh-es-Amon began to move towards him, her footsteps silent but her intent clear. The entire gallery now felt like a trap, the artifacts and relics standing as silent witnesses to a curse come alive. Panicking, Carl tried to retreat, but his legs wouldn't move. It was as if the ground beneath him had turned to quicksand. He screamed, but the sound was muffled by the thick, oppressive air. The shadowy priestess was now mere inches from him, her cold, ethereal fingers reaching out. The touch was icy, causing an immediate paralysis. As Carl's vision blurred, he found himself transported to ancient Egypt, witnessing the life and betrayal of Ankh-es-en-Amon. He felt her pain, her anger, and her insatiable desire for vengeance. It was then he realized that the curse was real, and he was its latest victim. By morning, the other guards found Carl unconscious beside the sarcophagus, which had returned to its original position. They rushed him to the hospital, but doctors were baffled by his condition. He remained in a catatonic state, eyes vacant but filled with terror. The museum, fearing bad publicity, moved the sarcophagus to a storage facility. But staff whispered about the haunted gallery and the guard who had looked into the eyes of a millennia-old curse. Carl eventually returned home but was never the same. He would often be found muttering about the shadows, the priestess, and the debt he had to pay. He left the security job and spent his days researching ancient Egyptian curses, desperately seeking a way to break the spell that had taken over his life. The gallery remained a chilling reminder of the night when history awakened, reaching out from the shadows to claim an unsuspecting soul.